So we start with charter. We went on to WBS. Then we went on to PERT or CPM. Then we went on to look at Gantt. Then we went on to look at resource and optimization of resource. Okay, so that's where we are. So under these things, obviously, this is all about time management. Okay, so in our triangle, time, cost, quality, scope, as I said, sometimes people swap scope and quality around, that's fine. So we are more or less now done with this. Right now, we are going to start looking at the costing aspects of a project. So the important thing to remember in costing is that future prediction, right? So if you're doing a project, if it is 6 months, it's no issue, you will get it right. But if it's a 5-year project, chances are you're going to get it wrong, right? You as in generally any project, they get it wrong because who knows what's going to happen in 5 years' time. So companies have stopped doing, but they even look operationally, having a 3-year forecast. Companies have stopped doing that because you're struggling to look at 1-year forecast, forget 3-year forecast, just a number. So that's the situation of any corporate now. So 3-year forecast. So imagine a project that is going on for 8 or 10 years. Very difficult to cost. So I'm going to show you some of the example where we have wasted cost, right? By getting it wrong, or we have done things that's not worth it, or we have got the costing aspects wrong and it takes a long time to put it right. One thing I wanted to point out was this website. Yeah, I use this quite a lot. It has thousands of templates. So the templates you can download. So for example, you want to write a project charter. Now there are 500 templates for charter, right? But you can choose, okay, I want to write a project IT charter. Or then it will ask you, is it ERP? Or is it IT software, what do you call it, hardware implement? So then you go down and you can download whatever you think is the right template for that particular. So if you want to do a WBS, there are templates. If you want to do a Gantt chart, there are templates. Okay. So Gantt chart, again, I'm saying you can use Excel than any other software because Excel now has an option to do Gantt chart, the simple ones. And that's more than enough for us. Okay. Right. I'm going to play a video just to show how cost is wasted.
Abandoned, isolated, and useless. Nothing hurts more than spending huge amounts of precious money on mega projects, only for them to be left isolated or useless. Be it building an entire city for millions of people, only for it to remain empty, or spending $17 billion on a mining mega project, only for it to be never used. Let's have a look at some of the most useless mega projects in the world, and dive into the story behind their uselessness. Ryugyong Hotel, North Korea. This is the Hotel of Doom. Being referred to as the super skyscraper back in 1987, this pyramid-shaped hotel was supposed to be taller than 1,000 feet, with more than enough space for 3,000 rooms. However, it remains incomplete till date. Construction has stopped and resumed several times over the years, but it still remains helpless and exposed, decaying with time. Imagine having big dreams about the tallest hotel in the world, only for it to become the tallest unoccupied building in the world. The world's emptiest airport, Sri Lanka. The construction of Matala Rajapaksa International Airport in Sri Lanka, a fully modern airport situated in the middle of a jungle, surrounded by the endless beauty the wildlife has to offer, was supposed to be a landmark for this region's progress. However, it turned out to be the emptiest airport in the world. So, where did it go wrong? It was the very location of Hambantota that became the reason for its failure. Having no resident population, and being surrounded only by fishing villages, it offered no attraction for tourists, and so it lives today with its failed fate. Arena da Amazonia. This $300 million World Cup stadium in Brazil is an almost abandoned site. After 4 years of construction, which even cost 3 workers their life, this stadium situated in the middle of Amazon remains unused, considering how difficult it is to travel to the location. Naypyidaw, Myanmar. This failure is much grander than others. Naypyidaw was built from scratch as the new capital of Myanmar. It is believed that this was done because Yangon, the present capital of Myanmar, had reached its infrastructural capacity, and a population of 7 billion will only increase in the coming years. However, despite investing $4 billion into this city over a span of several years, it doesn't even have 1 million residents. The capital remains practically empty and isolated. Interstate H3, Hawaii. Imagine driving on a breathtaking highway running through Hawaii. As charming as it sounds, in reality, this 26 kilometers long highway is rarely used and is often called the road to nowhere. To native Hawaiians, it doesn't matter that $50 million were spent per kilometer on the construction of Interstate H3, they continue to refuse using this highway for traveling. What do you think? Should government stop investing in such mega projects?
Okay. So the question is, should government stop investing in such projects? What do you think? You saw what some of the governments have invested, and these are just sample. There are hundreds of these projects. Versus why government should invest. Whose money are they using? Taxpayers' money. So who is responsible? Us. Right? Our money. There's no government money, it's our money. So should they be wasting it like this? Is the question. Right? Okay, so her question, or rather her statement, is that sometimes government invest today for a future return, not necessarily today. And there's some truth in it. So if you take, for example, the airport highway we built, right? Immediately it's a win. Everybody is using it, and it's happening. Now, if you take Gaul Highway, yes, people seem to have picked it up, right? But there are projects that has been done that hasn't picked up yet. But we must understand what's the agenda behind it. Why? So, for example, was there an agenda to move the capital to another city, like the case of Myanmar? Was there an agenda like that? Did we need a second airport when we had 5 other airports, which we could have upgraded? Who in the world will build an airport in the middle of a jungle, destroying the jungle? Even today, when a flight takes off and lands in that Makala airport, you know what they do? And they will continue to do. Do you know? They throw firecrackers and they shoot at the air 1 minute before a plane lands and 1 minute before a plane takes off. And this will continue. They don't shoot or kill anything. They do that because they want to scare the animals and birds away, so it doesn't get stuck in the plane engine. That will cause a bigger problem. So do you think they never thought about it? Do you think, yeah. How do you know they failed? They may have said, no, don't do it. It's like how do you know that? Maybe they did. They did. But who overrode that? That is the question. Right? That is what you need to question. Right? Yes, he is saying maybe the authorities failed because they didn't do a proper environmental study or all those things. But how do we know they did it? Maybe they did. Did the government take it seriously after that? I don't know. Right? So that is the situation. So when you are doing a project, you must understand the cost of such projects and the impact of that on the society. Okay, so that's what we are going to look at today. So let me take another project. So there was a large project called the Panama Canal. Okay, it's very close, similar to Suez Canal in Egypt. The Panama Canal was built to reduce the ship travel time from 25 days to 12 hours. So they reduced it by 24 days, basically. That reduces the cost of transport. So that was a project that was done. Now this project, you can see one of the largest projects, and it's one of the most difficult projects that was undertaken by a consortium of French engineers. Now this was to connect the two oceans, Atlantic and Pacific. And if you see the scope of this project was to reduce travel time from 25 days to 12 hours. France started this project and they failed. After about 25,000 people died in the project. Then United States took over, and after 33 years, they completed this project. 33 years. The cost of construction, 1904, was estimated to be, let's say today's term, 8 billion. So you can imagine Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, was only 1.5 billion. So you can imagine what the cost would have. So finally, USA never recovered their costs of this investment. I'm going to show a video now of this. This investment was so heavy, now US wants to take it back. So now they are talking to Panama to take the project back because they see the potential how to make money out of it. Right? So the question is, why did US intervene and did this project? All right, I'll play the second video.
Panama Canal is the most important waterway on Earth. It turns this journey into this, and it brings the United States closer to both Europe and Asia. The marvel that is the Panama Canal is both narrow and short, and yet every year, about 14,600 ships pass through its locks. Here is how. Canals have existed in some capacity for nearly all of human history. As traveling by boat is one of the most ancient modes of transport, it's no wonder that ancient engineers figured out a way to connect two bodies of water together, creating new, more efficient shipping routes. However, the construction of the Suez Canal in 1869 set a new precedent for what was possible. A pathway connecting two seas together. With the Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea now connected, governments throughout the West set their sights on connecting two even bigger bodies of water together, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. During the California gold rush of the mid-19th century, Panama was often used as a shortcut for shipping goods from New York to California. Ships would dock either on the Pacific or Atlantic side and transport their goods across what is now Panama. Eventually, a railroad was built to make the shortcut more efficient. The French had different plans, though. In 1881, work began on building a sea-level canal similar to Egypt's Suez Canal. However, a combination of poor planning and inefficient design led to France failing to make any meaningful headway into constructing a canal. After significant worker casualties due to illness, floods, and poor management, the U.S. took over construction in 1904. Chief Engineer John Frank Stevens took one look at the geography and instantly knew why the French had failed. A sea-level canal was simply not possible. Thus, work began on the creation of the world's then largest artificial lake, Gatun Lake. By damming the nearby Chagres River, engineers created the artificial lake to function as a water reservoir system, 85 feet above sea level. This would work in conjunction with a series of canal locks to raise and lower ships as needed as they passed through the canal. Further expansion projects would then ensue as the ship traffic passing through the canal steadily increased throughout the years. So how does the Panama Canal work? As a cargo boat nears the canal's approach channels from the sea, several tugboats come to greet it. The tugboats attach a tow line to the cargo ship and move them into alignment with the canal lock's narrow entrance. Once a cargo ship is firmly within a lock, a tugboat remains behind to keep it in place. The lock gate behind it then shuts, while the lock gate ahead gradually opens, displacing water at a steady pace, thus raising the ship so that it can then enter the next lock, where it will eventually join Gatun Lake. Ships are protected by rubber fenders installed along the lock's sides, preventing them from scraping or chafing as they pass through. They then cross Gatun Lake towards a different set of locks on the other side, where the process is repeated. It is crucial for this process to be gradual, as this keeps the water flowing at a manageable rate. The average amount of time it takes for a ship to pass through the Panama Canal is about 11 hours, with most of that time spent waiting for other ships to pass. As the canal's locks functioned as gates for ships to pass through, building additional locks was the first order of business when the Panama Canal was expanded during the late 2000s. As of 2021, the Panama Canal features 4 separate sets of canal locks for ships to pass through. The Gatun and Agua Clara locks, facing the Atlantic, and the Cacholi and Miraflores locks facing the Pacific. The original locks measured 110 feet wide and 1,050 feet long, and could fit ships up to 965 feet in length and 60 feet in beam. Ships built with specifications that would fit through the canal were dubbed Panamax-class ships. They could fit up to 5,000 standard shipping containers on board. While this may seem like a huge amount of cargo, this figure is dwarfed by the additional capacity granted by the canal's newer, bigger locks. With the construction of new locks, new Panamax or Neo-Panamax class ships could accommodate up to 13,000 containers. While the Panama Canal has yet to face a blockage similar to the Suez Canal's mishap earlier this year, maintenance has been an ongoing issue. The estimated annual cost to maintain it has been quoted to be as high as $350 million. Engineers are constantly fighting natural phenomena such as erosion and landslides just to keep the canal intact. Over its century of service, the Panama Canal has ferried an innumerable amount of cargo between its narrow straits. Chances are, many of the things you own have found themselves on a ship passing through the Panama Canal.
Okay, so you can see sometimes governments do invest huge sums of money for not necessarily to make a return, but for benefit. Okay, so that's the main objective of sometimes the government projects. Okay, right. So in this particular case, you will see that the French failed in the 1800s because they went bankrupt and the investor lost confidence. So there was major issues at the planning stage which they didn't consider. So again, we go back to planning. Failure in the plan. Then many died in the thing and cost overrun of this project. Unforeseen event and bad planning led to closure of this project or to stop this project or fail. And then original scope that didn't include building a lake. And then finally, the US came. They took another 10 years to complete and then used that as a US government-funded project to get Panama going. So now today, if you read the papers, you will see that Trump is looking to take it back because US only invested it. So he's saying it belongs to US. I will leave that to Trump to sort out, right? Right. So you see sometimes he does, I mean, we all do projects. We don't see the benefit today, but we may see it down the line. Right. So let's go back to our topic. How do you cost a project or how do you price a project? What we are going to look at today. So the biggest challenge when pricing a project or costing a project is the unknown factors, right? What we call the risk. So how do you fund it or how do you fund a project depends on the type of risk you are willing to take or the project is willing to take. The best way to fund is through equity finance, right? Where the parent company or the shareholders put in money. So the company is not at debt. For example, John Keels, when they did the Cinnamon Life construction 7 years ago when they started, they did borrow, but what they also did was they raised rights issue. So all the shareholders then put the money in to a certain, I think 1-3 split, and they all put the money in. So the John Keels had a good foundation to start. Of course, as things went along, things went wrong. COVID hit, had to stop. Then economic crisis, had to stop. Then we had the foreign exchanges. So like this, as you do a project, you face problems which is unknown. So can you price for all of that? No, you can't. So how do you overcome it? So equity finance is one of the best way to finance because it doesn't cost the company any money. But of course, you can go into loan and lease finance, which is the next thing that companies do is, of course, then you are stuck with the interest, right? For the long term, short term. Now, as you know, things can move up and down in a country like Sri Lanka. It's not stable. So then how do you price that? Then the subsidized finance is government funded. So we will talk about that later on, the PPP programs, public-private partnership like the highways and so on. Then there are other ways of funding, obviously, the free funding through friendship, donor funded, the NGOs, profit funded, and so on. So there are various ways you can fund a project. So that's what we want to look at and how do you do that. So the costing techniques that is used in a project, it varies. There is no fixed technique. The basic one is WBS. So we go back to our WBS. So as you remember, WBS, we looked at all the activities that has time and cost. At that time, I told you the activity must have a time and cost. If it doesn't, then it doesn't belong to the program. So on that basis, we cost each of the activities, right? Each of the activities can be costed. So you can't miss it. Of course, if you missed an activity, then you have missed a cost. That's a time as well. So that's why we do the WBS in detail. So once you do that, then you have a good base of cost, and it is very accurate, but it takes time to do that. So activity-based costing is the fundamental if you have not done a similar project before or things like that. Okay. Then you go on to analogous estimate. So this is where we actually take the last year's cost and just add a percentage. So we know last year this project cost similar project costs, let's say $1 million. Maybe this year it is $1.1 million. So we just make an estimate. Very straightforward, right? And that's possible. That is possible only if the economy is stable. Then we get the cost plus. Now this is a completely different type of costing where the contractor or whoever say, look, I don't know anything. I will buy all the things, I'll do it for you. Every time I submit an invoice to you, you give me 10% on top of that. So cost plus. So whatever percent, it doesn't have to be 10%, but they will agree a term. I'll come to talk about pricing later on. Zero based, all of you are aware of it. It's a best way of doing it. It's very similar to activity based costing. Then determined costing is used mainly for IT projects where human hours are required. Right? You supply the material maybe and human hours are required. So then you have a rate. So IT projects are based on these types. So if you know the IT project is going to cost you 300 hours, then easy to cost. Then parametric is average cost, or what we think is the cost of a project. So for example, does anybody know what does it cost today to build a house? Let's say 1,000 square feet. Per square feet rate. Anybody know? Anybody building a house? 15,000. Yeah. Currently, it's going at about 15,000 for a square feet. So if you are building 1,000 square feet house, it's 15 million. Very nice estimate. You have a rough idea. If somebody comes and says 30 million, you know it is wrong. So today's rate is 15 million. Do you know what it was 5 years ago? Same 1,000 square feet house? 5,000. That's right. So 5 years ago, it was only 5,000. So you can see within 5 years how the currency has depreciated and how the goods have gone up in price. So 5 years ago, if you have built a house, you are lucky. Today you can sell it for 15, nothing else. But today, if you start a house, it is 15,000. That is very basic house, like what I will build. Now, what you all will build maybe 20, 25,000. You all will have expensive tiles and so on. So then the price keeps going up. Right. So the estimation depends on what you want to do at the end of it. So that's a parametric estimate. Then when you don't know the price, what do? You call for bids. Like we did in the Singaraja project. People who want to take the highest risk will give you the lowest price. Do you want to go with them? That's your choice. You don't want to spend a lot of money, then yeah. But if you want to be safe, probably you will go the other way. That's no right answer. It's a risk factor. Then scenario-based costing is through through systems, technology, and then obviously year on year, long-term project budgets are put and so on. So there are various ways you can price it. These are only some of them. It's not the list, only list. Some of the things I have indicated to you. Right. Now, what are the factors you will put into this? So, if you are doing a long-term project, if it's 1 year, nobody cares. With less than a year, short-term projects is fine. You can manage. The risk is, I would say zero, but minimum. But if you got a larger project that goes on for, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years, like the one we are doing in we are building a 300 house project. Now that's going on for now almost 7 years, and it's still not complete. But those type of projects cost Very difficult to estimate. Right. So for some of the factors you will do is that you must consider inflation. Now, what do you think the inflation going to be in 5 years' time? Nobody knows. You can't guess. So you look at the central bank report, they will have some they will have some reasonable prediction, right? We are going to grow at 5.5%. And if you look at the last 5 years, we have never grown at even 2%, right? So where do you stand? So the inflation will be a biggest factor because cost of material goes up, cost of construction goes up, or cost of anything goes up. So for example, if you use the hourly rate for a staff, let's take it's a 5-year IT project. Now you may say, okay, every year I have to give 10% for my staff salary. Therefore, on the 5th year, it is 1.5 times of today's cost. So today you are paid, let's say $100 an hour. In 5 years' time, you have to pay $150 an hour or more. So how do you price that? So that is where the inflation has a huge impact, and we will do some calculations later on. Exchange rate. Now, Sri Lanka goes through absolutely dynamic exchange rate. Can somebody tell me what's the exchange rate going to be end of March? That's all, 1 month from today. I called the deputy governor yesterday. She was one of our students last year. And I asked her, what is the exchange rate going to be in March? What do you think the answer was? She says, sir, you would have better brains to tell me than me trying to tell you what it's. Because you can't predict, even a central bank can't predict. And you will notice, because in Sri Lanka trend, if you look at it, every end of March, there's a last 10 days of March, exchange rate shoots up. You look at any trend last 5-10 years, last week in March, exchange rate starts shooting up. Anybody know why? Why last week in March? So financial year closure, that's right. So companies are closing their books, right? So they want to show good profit. So what do you think they do? One is corporates, yeah, and one is on the personal side. What do they do? They start buying dollars. So when the demand for dollar goes up, right? They want to make a reserve, they are buying dollars. Demand for reserve goes up. At the same time, people start sending money overseas, right? Because they don't want to keep it for tax purposes in their bank account. So they want to close the year with minus figures. So they start sending money overseas. So that's a demand. So then suddenly March 31st, exchange rate has gone. So this is the things that we have to face, right? Interest rate. What's the interest rate today? Base rate is what? 7.75 or what you call PLR or whatever. What is it going to be next year? Up or down? Let's start with that. It was 8% 3 months ago or 6 months ago. It came down to 7.75 now, this quarter. Next year, up or down? You all done economics? You all have done finance with Ravi and all these people, experts. You all are MBA students. You all read articles. I presume you all are working in corporates. Exchange rate is going to go up. How do I know that? I am no magician. Exchange rate next year is going to go up. You just need to look at the bank's bond rates. If the banks are offering 8%, 9%, you are safe for a 7.75 base. But today banks are offering 12 to 15%, which means they are looking at the exchange rate shooting up again. Otherwise, why bank will offer such 12% high rate? You could look at DFCC debentures. Right? So it's going to go up. So when you do a project in Sri Lanka, you need to factor that in. You need to assume some numbers. Okay. So risk. Then the other factor is risk. How do you price in risk? So when you're pricing, you need to bring in risk. You need to factor risk. And we will look at risk pricing under risk when we come to that. Economic factors, local, global. If Trump sneezes, we have a problem. Right? Economic factors. So Trump says oil this price, everybody will go and buy oil at that price. So then that will affect Sri Lanka economy. Export, import, both. Cash flow, because that's the biggest thing. That's what I'm going to look at next. Legal aspects will have an issue. You need to understand if you're cross-border, how legal will come into play. Political aspect, we have been through that. You have examples of that in Sri Lanka. Environmental impact, we studied this or looked at it on the green projects, how environmental impact comes into place, competition pricing. And so there are many factors that these are just samples. When you're pricing, there are so many factors you will consider. All that needs to be priced. You can't ignore them. Okay. So this is pricing and costing of a project. Factors to consider. So I asked a simple 10-mark question. Tell me factors to consider, 5 factors you will consider in a project when pricing. Many didn't write this. Many wrote something else. Of course, some of them are relevant. I'm not saying no. But you need to understand pricing means what, right? Okay, let's move on. So when you're pricing, the important factor is considered is the base cost. So we have a base cost, which we have. Here I given a simple example. I mean, this is very simple. So launching a new product, 100 units. So sales, 10,000 cost. Manufacturing, 10,000. Raw material, personal, 10,000. So total 40,000 is the cost. So if you were to manufacture, the cost of a unit is $400. Done. So you want to keep a 10% margin for 40. So you make profit of $4,000. That is a basic pricing. So you launch this ice cream or whatever this product. Everything going under retail marked prices. In this case will be 440. Now, due to some crisis, one item goes up, material cost by 50% due to oil prices. Now you have marked your product at 440, but the new cost is 45,000 because 5,000 added on to the extra cost. Now per unit is 450. So what is happening if you are continue to sell at mark price as 440 and your cost is now at 450? This is within 3 months. You can't withdraw the products. So now you are going to start making a loss, right? So if you start a loss of $1,000 if you were to. So this pricing is very sensitive and you can't put too much margin also just in case price goes up. You can't do that, but people won't buy it. So it's a very sensitive thing. Let me give you an example of another government project. This is a UK project. It's called the Channel Tunnel. Now, Channel Tunnel is a huge project. This was government-private partnership. Then finally, it was completed. So when they initially proposed, the price was put for approval at $5 billion. But they knew it was going to be 10 billion. Why would they do that? It's like me buying a shirt for 5,000 rupees. I go home to my wife and say, 20% discount, I got it at 3,000. Everybody's happy. Had I told it is 5,000 rupees, there is riots at home. So why would they do that? It's a government project or government public-private project. Eventually it ended up as a private project. But why would they do that? Yeah. So they see, if you all were asked opinion, whether there should be a airport at Mattala. What is your opinion? You will say no need. Most of some of you will say, yeah, needed. That's why government never asks you. Because you will always say no. Because it's your money. I have said, okay, well, government come and ask you, we are going to do this project, what is your opinion? No, they don't. Right? Because you will never approve it. So when you're spending public money, sometimes they play with the budget. In this case, of course, they wanted to, the government saw because, next slide. See on the left here, this is UK, this is Europe. Now, Europe has something like 20 countries. The only country that was isolated from Europe was UK. There was no crew roads. So every time the ship or whatever has to come, a lorry has to come, they has to move it by ship through the waters. So the government decided that is not the effective way. We need to have a drive-through system. So they dug underneath and connected the two waters or two land. So this was the project. So the trains inside which will carry the vehicles up and down. So this project, no person in UK will understand the importance of it. This was done 30 years ago, 1993 or more. Today it's one of the most used systems. Now the ferries have lost business. Smooth, cost is low, faster delivery, and so on. But public can't see that. So the government can't go and say, I'm going to spend so much money, whether you like it or not. So they start small. Then how do they make it 10? From 5 billion to 10 billion, how do they make it? They call change request. We saw we saw something that, we can't now, we have to blow and make it bigger, do dynamite or whatever. They will just starve it leases. And at the cost. Like we did at the Mattala Airport. After construction, not Mattala Airport, Mandara Port. After complete construction, everything was over. Ships started sailing, and what did they discover suddenly? At the mouth of the port in Hambantota, what did they discover? A stone. A huge stone. So now the ships can't go. Small boats can go, but yeah, Hambantota was not built for small boats. So suddenly a rock appeared. Your question. You asked, environmentalists forgot to say. Oh, did they say and government forgot to look at it? I don't know. And then we spend billions trying to break that rock because you have to go every time, you have to wear the gas and go down slowly, break it and get rid of it. It's cost a lot more money. Had they shown there was a rock there and ships won't go, then what happens? They say, why are you building a port here? Yeah. Right.
And it is possible to convince the environmental impact as young MBA. Well, how would you encourage us to do that? Because when we try to fight, it's a lost cause. And the answer we get is the cost we are paying is, destroying this piece of land or getting rid of this land, because in like 10 years, we're going to have a big mall here that's going to create opportunities. So how would you, because it's something like personally, I have tried and it frustrates and we sometimes stop. Okay, maybe this is not a battle I want to fight.
Yeah, a valid question. So what she is asking is, how do you overcome when the environmental issues are there? How do you overcome fighting that? because they don't want to even listen to you. Right? Now, I can tell you, I have worked in multiple countries. It all depends on the country's outlook on environment. You go to UK, US, you put an environmental report out saying don't do this, that's it. They won't do it. Very simple. Because they have lobby people who will lobby for it. You know, they call the Greenpeace movement, if you want to look it up. Right? They will come and stop the project. Like we saw in the Airbus A380 case. If you remember, the environmentalist only started the problem. Because they were never consulted. Or maybe they were consulted, but the Airbus didn't listen because Airbus was too big. So trying to convince in Sri Lanka an environmentalist is a big issue, because I have seen the report when NIDA, what do you call it, the Sea Aqua Authority published a report not to build the port city. They didn't talk about the corals dying or the fish moving. Or they didn't worry. They didn't say much about that. They said they will move on. No issue. If you build here, if you put soil here, and if you load it with weight, then the construction starts and buildings start coming up, the movement of water will change, the waves. That will flood the Mount Lavinia Hotel. Right. And if you see the report, you will see that. But did we ever take it into consideration? No. Now, what is the next project that Port City is going to do? Forget the construction. What is the expansion Sri Lanka is going to do in the water waves? Do you know? You read the papers? MBA students? You all watch Facebook and this rubbish and TikTok and that talk and all those things. Right? Will you find me in that? No, you won't find me in any of them. All rubbish. Right. So between Golf Face Hotel and Mount Lavinia Hotel, that stretch of sea, they are reclaiming 1 kilometer inside. Where the railway track is there, from there is going to be pulled 1 kilometer into the sea. So we are going to have a long beach. Nice idea. I'm not saying no to that. Brilliant. What's the ROI? It's taxpayers' money. Yeah? It's not some nice Chinese fellow says, this is lovely, let's do it. Taxpayers' money. You know what a reclaim means, right? 1 kilometer inside, you're going to create a beach from the railway track inside for 10 or 11 kilometers length. I can't remember, but not as big as Marina Beach in Chennai or in India. Shorter, but we're going to create that. It's approved. You can look it up in Google if you want. Why do we need to do that? No, it's just a beach. Just like Golf Face Green. Why? What's the purpose? A country that is suffering, we are struggling. Economically, we are down. People are in poverty. Why this project? I can understand if you build 1,000 houses and give it to people. That I understand. There's no ROI, but at least 1,000 families will be saved. What is in here? Nothing. Nothing at all. Right? Money, I don't know, is wasted. I can't say it is because like we discussed, 10 years, 20 years from now, I don't know the purpose of that. Maybe it is something good for the country. I don't know, and probably nobody knows, but they are going ahead. So government will do projects that we are not aware of the return. Okay, I can't say anything more than that because number one, I'm on video. Number two, I don't know. Right? If I want to say, I will say a lot of things, but then what's the point? It will be like the Nalanda College video that is going around. Right. Let's move on. So, how do you do a project and how do you make sure the cash flow is good? In projects, if you see all the projects we looked at, cash flow was one of the issues. Planning, disaster. But when the project starts, cash flow is one of the issues. Right? So how do you manage cash flow? So that's what we're going to look at today. And it's a bit of a complex topic, but I will let you know what is important and what is not important. Right? So when you are starting a project, you plan is the blue chart, blue line. So that is your plan cost. Right? So it starts small and then it start accelerating at some middle of the thing. So this is it is directly proportionate to the PLC. Product life cycle. Right? Directly proportionate. So you will see at the peak here is what you are seeing the peak. And then it tapers off. So the planned cost, or rather cost estimate, is the blue cost. Right? Right. Now we have several milestones in projects. Milestone 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have the milestones here or the timelines here. Now here is the different stages of the project, the value. Now what happens is let's take stage 2. Here, milestone 2. Now what happens here is that your budgeted cost is here, right here. Budgeted cost. But if you see here, the money required is this, the red line. So the red line is the submission of actual cost. Right? So this is the actual cost the contractor is saying, now he's at stage 2. I have spent so much. Here, give me this much money. But your budget is this much. So bank is not releasing you because your next set of money for this one will be released here. Now, if you were to borrow that here, let's say you tell the bank, look, give it to me 3 months before, bank will somehow oblige. Then you start paying interest. 3 months. But you might say, oh, well, it doesn't matter as long as project is moving fast and finishing early. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. So we have a system to calculate that. So this excess funding, so if you carry on like this, sometime what happens is your project overruns. You need to be mindful of that as well. So that's what we want to look at today. So if you see here, a similar graph, the PLC graph, project starts off as planned, the green line. Then some disruption happened, this get delayed, and then you get extended. So now you got time extension here, but you don't know whether cost has got extended. Usually, if time is extended, chances are cost will also get extended. Okay, so let's look at that. So we use a methodology called earned value. Earned value is a very complex topic. I can teach 10 sessions just on earned value. Right? So I am not going to bore you or bother you with earned value. Please mark and keep in black ink, not red ink, that this will not be tested in the exams. Nor will it be asked anywhere in your, in your assignments or so. So you don't need to know how to do it. But what you must know that this exists. This is the fundamental of project costing and pricing. And how do you overcome the cost and time? So the earned value has lots of formulas which we don't need to know, but it's something that eventually you will need to understand to make sure when somebody tells you earned value of this project is so much, you must know what it is. Okay, right. Now, if you take the similar graph that we had a look at it, the orange line here is the estimated cost. So that's we know is what we call the planned value, PV. Planned value is the estimation of the project. Now, the actual cost AC, the contractor submits at any given time. Let's say this is stage 2. A contract it should be here, but the contractor submits a bill for here. So he wants more money. Now, the funding requirement is the issue. So now you have to go to the bank, ask for more money. What does the earned value say? Is that I don't think you are here. I think you are lying. I think you are here. That's what earned value tells. Even though you think you are here, and I think you should be here as per my budget, but you are actually here, which tells me you are behind project. You're behind in your costing. Behind means your project timelines are behind. How do you calculate that? So earned value tells you that this project is in trouble. Okay. Let me take a simple example to explain earned value. No need to write anything down. Just hear me out, right? This example, just hear me out. Now, let's say you have got somebody has got a contract, right? Somebody has got a contract to do 10 palm trees planting at the Golf Face Hotel, right? So 10 trees, and the project contract value is $10. This is the total cost, right? And it has to be done in 10 days. This is the contract. This is the scope. Now, every tree he plants, he gets $1. So he can claim $1. So if you go back to my graph, so every time he plants a tree, he can go and ask for the money. So, and we have also, in this case, it should be very linear, right? Number of trees and dollar. One tree, $1. Two tree, $2. Very linear. Now this contractor says, okay, I have got this contract. I had to plant 10 trees in 10 days. Total cost 10. Every time I plant a tree, my claim is $1. Fine, very simple. So he starts digging the hole. Okay. So what he does is, he does something smart. So this is the scope. You have to put 10 trees, 10 holes to be dug, and job to be complete. So he does something smart. He says, if I were to hire a digger to dig holes for 10 days, each day I had to dig one hole and then bring one tree and plant it, then I collect my $1 for day 1. I don't want to do that. I will be a little bit smarter. Day 1, and I'm just going to only for the 1 day I will hire this digger. I'm going to dig 10 holes in day 1. Right. The owner comes and says, look, day 1 is over. You haven't planted any trees. I can see only 10 holes. So don't worry. Right. So he doesn't get his $1. He should have earned his $1. He hasn't earned it. So day 2, he does something similar. He only brings the trees. He brings all the trees and puts it. The day 2, the inspector comes and says, well, 10 holes are there, trees are there, you haven't planted anything. You should have earned $2, you haven't earned. Okay, fine. Now this guy being smart, now he has got all the trees in one go to the site. He has dug the 10 hole, it's just a matter of planting it. And he knows he can do it fast. So he is trying to save money. That is his problem. So life goes on. Day 6, what happens? He should have earned $6. He hasn't earned it. And day 6, he has probably only planted 3 trees. Day 6, he dies. Now what happens? He's dead. So now he has planted 3 trees. He is on day 6, which means he should have planted 6. Earned value should have been 6. But he has only earned 3. Now his wife comes, widow, and says, give me the $10. The contract he signed, give me the $10. The owner says, sorry, no. He has planted 3 trees. We will pay only $3. What's the right answer? So we are on day 6. He should have planted 6. He has planted 3. What's the right answer? How much should his widow get? I will tell you the answer. It is anything between 1 and 10. So we have 20 people here, so you can't get it wrong. How much? Anybody like to guess? Right. Right. So he says you must pay for the holes and the tree. The contract says $1 per planted tree. So $3. And he should have done 6. He hasn't done 6, he has done 3 only. So what does earn value say? Earn value works the opposite. So earn value says, okay, you have planted 3, so you are entitled to 3. There's no question about that. $3 done, no problem. The question is the balance 7. Now it says, the question that it will ask is what does it take to complete this? What does it take to complete that? Okay. So in this case, you don't need to transport the trees. It's already there. You don't need to dig the hole. It's all done. So it's just a matter of planting. So earn value you can calculate and say on the 6th day, it is actually not $6. It's actually, you need to pay $7 because it takes only another $3 to complete the project. So it is not $3 or $6 or whatever. It is actually $7 because the work has been done. Now, how much does it take to complete? That's all. So how much is this site worth today? So if we were to sell this to somebody today, how much is it worth? You have a question? No. Earn value. It's more like opposite, where it looks at what does it take to complete. If he has not done, if he has done only 3 plants daily, and on day 6, if he just waits, no hole, then it's only $3. But earn value also comes back and says, hold on, you should have done 6. You have done only 3. Therefore, now I have to plant a lot more. You haven't even dug the hole. You haven't even done anything. Therefore, I will pay you only $2 because I have to do a lot more work to complete. So earn value can work in both ways. Okay. So how do we calculate? That's what we want to look. I will be doing some examples, but let's just go through the fundamentals of that. So what we call the S-curves of earn value. In this case, you will see that the planned cost is in the middle. This is the planned cost. That's fine, PV. The actual cost is here at a given stage. It's this stage. Actual cost is here. Earned value says, nope, it is here. Right? Now what it says, earned value, this is a trick. This is a good thing about earned value. It will now predict where this is going to finish. From this onwards, if he has been so low in his budgeted versus actual, this part here, it will now predict it is going to take X value more. So this is the extra money is going to incur. This from plan to actual is here. Is a prediction. This extra cost is going to incur. Not only that, it will also predict how long it is going to take to complete. The extra time is going to take to complete. So at a given project, it will tell you at a given time. Earned value can tell you how much more is required to complete this project and what's the excess time it's going to take. So it's quite a useful tool to use. Okay, but that involves a lot of calculation. As I said, you don't need to worry about it. Just follow me so that you know something like this exists. So the other formulas that we use to calculate plus earned value, other things. So this is schedule variance, which tells you earned value minus the planned value. Then we have something called the cost variance. Whenever I say schedule is time, cost variance is earned value minus the actual cost. So where do we use this? Some more to look at. That then reflects the earned value, the formulas, then brings in two other aspects. What we call the schedule performance index, SPI, and cost performance index, CPI. Now these two indexes are very useful. And you will see why in a minute. So when you do a project, the two elements are cost and time. Schedule is time, cost. Now, when you calculate these two index will tell you where about the project is in this chart. Right. So once you get these two numbers, the earned value and the cost and the planned value, based on if the index is 1, the schedule index, and the cost index is 1, then we know we are on schedule and on budget. No extra cost. But moment the index start going up, the time index and the cost index, we know we are ahead of schedule. So that is we might finish faster, cheaper. But if we go the other way, negative, that is the cost and the index, then you are in trouble. Cost overrun and time overrun. But that doesn't mean anything. I actually want to know what is the exact cost overrun, what is the exact time overrun. I need to know that. Otherwise, what's the point? I need to know how much extra I need to be ready for and how much time is going to delay me. Both are important. So that can be calculated. So this is some more forecasting formula, which we are going to use in a minute. So if I were to take all that formulas and put it into a schedule, this is what you will get. Now, you will see time and value. So that's no issue. You will need blue is the planned value. Actual is currently at a given stage is here above. Earned value is below. By the way, it can be other way around also. Earned value can be more and actual can be less. I will come to it later on. So now the earned value says it is here. Present value should be here. Actual cost is here. Right? Now all this calculation we did formulas that we looked at, different formulas that we looked at is what you are seeing here at each stage of the project. Now, what does each one of this tell us? And that's what we are going to look at. So don't worry about it. This is too complex. Don't worry about it. Let's look at a simple calculation. Now here is a simple calculation just to demonstrate what I'm saying. Now forget about the bottom part. I'm just focused on this top line, this bit here. Now this project has a budgeted cost of $400,000. Okay, $400,000 budget. And the time given is 4 months for this project. So $400,000, 4 months. Now, the current situation is after 3 months, so we are looking at the milestone third month. To date spent is $200,000. Work completed is $100,000. Right. So earned value is 100,000. The submission of actual cost is 200. Let me ask you, where should the cost be in 3 months, roughly? Should be around 300, roughly. Right? Because it's a 4-month project, 3 months have gone, he should have claimed at least 300. But he's claiming only 200. So he's already, we know, he's behind. And work completed as per earned value is 100. Now let's put that into some sort of index. So earned value is 100, we know that. Actual cost we know is 200, so those has been now understood. Planned value, so what should have been? 400 minus 100 at 300. Planned value is estimation as of today. He should have claimed 300, but he is only claiming 200. As per the plan, he should have claimed 300. Cost variance, we looked at the formula earlier, earned value minus actual cost. So earned value is 100, actual claim is 200, so he's at a minus. Schedule variance, at a time, again, earned value minus the present value is giving you at 200. The formula we looked at earlier. Then we come to the two index. This is the most important ones. The cost performance index, the CPI, and the schedule performance index. The earned value divided by actual cost, 100 divided by 200 gives you 0.5. Time variance, again, earned value divided by present value, 100 divided by 300, it gives you 0.33. So we have the two index. Now you take that number and you put it into the schedule, how to calculate the revised time and revised cost. So revised duration earlier used to be 4 months. So we take the original schedule time, which is 4 months, divided by the schedule index, which is 0.33. So now we know this project is going to take 12 months. A 4 months project is going to take 12 months. Second, revised budget, what we do, original cost divided by the CPI index, which is this one. Original cost was 400, CPI index is 0.5. Now it's showing $800,000, double the cost. So our budgeted cost was 400. Now this project is going to finish at $800,000. This is very useful to know, right? We can predict from this when a project is running as runs. Every month we predict. Every month we use a index to see, okay, where are we? Sometimes we are catching up, sometimes we are going over. Cost and time. So every month we try to understand what's going on. And this fluctuation is, we want to keep it minimal. Right? So then we start pushing the contractor, saying, hey, it's showing 12 months. You're going to double the cost. Not accepted. Then we start pushing. Right? So that's what happens in a real project. Now, we take these two index, if you want to put it into some sort of a pictorial view. So we know the SPI index was 0.33, which is less than 1. And then we know the cost index was 0.5. So which is also less than 1. So if you take the cost index and the SPI index, we can see from a chart where we are. Cost overrun, time overrun. And this is the importance of earned value. So this is what people use when the not short-term projects, generally long-term projects, to know, okay, we started the project 2 years down the line. Now, how long it's going to take to finish and what is the cost it's going to finish at? Both are relevant information that we need to know. Okay. Now, If you like to do PhD on this, you're most welcome to use me as your supervisor, because this is my strength. This is what we use on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, you don't need to know this, because this can be easily calculated on a system. So we have this system that automatically tells me where we are every day. It's useless on a daily basis, but on a monthly basis, quite useful. So here you will see this chart in the middle is the planned value. You can see the earned value and the actual. So here are the activities. It will tell you the base cost, actual cost, earned value, present value, all that is given. And then it will tell you on this one, the SV and CV index. Here you will see that the project is okay when it comes to time. Time-wise, we are green. But cost-wise, not good news. It's all overrun. So when you go back to your chart, so time on schedule, good. But we are in this box. We are over. So anything less is bad news. Anything above is good news. So in this particular case, we are here, and therefore it is not good news. So this is the actual earned value chart. Okay. As I said, you don't need to worry about it. It is only for information to know this exists to predict the future. Okay. Let's move on. So earned value is one minus the other. So earned value here, in this particular case, the work that has been completed. In this case, work completed cost is 100. That is our calculation. So we calculate and say, you are saying you have spent 200, but on our calculation, it is only 100. So that's what quantity surveyors do. They look at the site and they say, this is the value of this project. This is what you have completed. It needs so much to complete the project. So that's what QS does. That's the full-time job. Yeah. Okay. Now, where does now we looked at cost overrun, time overrun. Who is responsible for it? Who pays for it? If a project is overrun by X amount and X time, of course, X time is X amount, who pays for it? Project manager. Nobody will go to that position anymore. Must be a very rich project manager. There are only two people who can pay for it, either the owner or the contractor. Right? But the question is who? Which one? Right? That's called the window analysis. Now, through the earned value, you will say, okay, the project is going to get extended, right? So now you will see at the top, this is the planned variance. This is a planned project chart, which is fine, which is completed. It will complete here, this red line. Now, as the project is progressing, the owner causes some delay. So, for example, the owner says, I don't have money to pay you. I need 1 month to pay you. Therefore, I can't pay you. What do you want to do? He said, then I will stop. Fine. So in this case, the owner stops. So now we revise the project. Now the project which was supposed to complete in this line here. Now it has gone to here. It has extended. That is, owner pays for it. So in this extension, owner pays for it. Now, the issue is this. The contractor is not going to wait for a month for you to come back. So he will go and start another project. So for the contractor to come back and start after a month is going to be a challenge. So he may say, I can't come back after a month. I'm going to come back after 2 months. You can't blame him. Now, the owner agreed, okay, yeah, up to this point, extension, I accept. But let's say the progress is happening. Now the contractor has some problem. There's a strike. The strike. Now the staff are not working. So there is a slight delay, the purple one. Now who pays for it? Contractor pays for it. This is a straightforward case. Now next question. So the project gets extended, contractor has to bear the cost. Next question. While this is going on, the floods come. Rain comes, floods come. 1 month project site flooded. Who pays for it? These are all real life situations. It's not something I come up with. It's all I face every day. As per the agreement. There's nothing in the agreement, right? But in the agreement, it will not say if it flooded, what happens, right? So what is that one? Any lawyers here? Right. What is that word they use? Force majeure, right? They use a force majeure, which is called the God's Act. Right? Now, God's Act, who pays for it? God's Act, who pays for it? God comes to pay. God's Act, agreed. Contract is there. Paper is there. It says now this is God's Act. There's nothing to do with me. Owner didn't ask for the rain. The contractor didn't ask for the rain. It has happened. But there is a cost. Number one, cleaning cost. Now, who pays for the cleaning cost? Number two, who pays the staff for that 1 month they can't come to work? Who pays for the delayed cost? Who pays for the replacement cost? So some of the things that we already built has got damaged also. Now I had to remove that and rebuild it. Who pays for the replacement cost? Now you see the problem. When you do a project, these are all real life problems. People say insurance. Right? So I thought, brilliant idea. Any insurance buggers here? I mean, insurance staff here? The worst people. At least the bankers, somewhat okay, I'll trust the fellows. Right? So this site, this is a real example. This is last November, I'm talking. So this site is in Puttalam. Right? It's in Puttalam. We are ensured that all those things are happening. Right? Now, the floods happened and the water came gushing down to Puttalam and destroyed it. Puttalam didn't have rain, by the way. Right? It was just a light rain. The water from upcountry came and washed the site off. Went to the insurance, come, have a look at it. Came and looked at, yeah, damage, ne? Right, okay. We will go back and get back to you. The fellows went back, they looked at the contract. The contract says it seems, and this is a funny one, the contract says it seems, the flooding is insured, but the flooding must happen in the rain that fell in that area. You have to rain there, and it must flood there. Not the flood came from other is not insured. What do you do? This is the problem. These are real life problems. So, insurance is not the answer for everything. Okay? So, in this case, what we had to do is, we had to agree with the owner to bear 50% of the cost, and we will bear some of the cost. So what we said was, we will give the labor free. We will free work for you free. You please give us material. Then it was agreed. So in a real life situation, these things are some of the things that is always a challenge. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Any questions so far? So to answer your question, how do you calculate earned value? Is calculate on an actual basis. What have you actually spent today? Just because the contractor comes and says, I have spent 200. No. Yes, the valuation, right? So what's the value of you all today? There has to be 100 people here. Agreed? Planned. Mr. Anapura has planned 100 food downstairs. Planned value. 25 turned up. So I know actual is 25. Oh, earned is 25. So the man downstairs will earn for 25 people. But he also clever. He knows 100. These fellows are never turn up on holiday. I have the experience, so I will plan for 50 food. So his problem is the plan was 100. Actual is 25. He is going to submit bill for 50. Mr. Ranapura said, no, 25 people came, that's your problem, go and give it to somebody. I'll pay for 25. That's it. Okay, simple example. Right. Now, all of you are expert on this subject. Dr. Ravi told me, right? So don't try to fool me on this, right? We are in touch. I want to look at this from a project angle. That's all, nothing else. You all know the technique, so I'm not going to go into that. So the two aspects that we want to look at in a project appraisal is non-discounted and the discounted methods. You all are familiar with it, so I'm not going to look at it. The thing that to remember is payback period doesn't take time into consideration. IRR is a percentage and the discounted is a right or almost right value. So this one here, I put it in the exam last year. 10 marks. Explain to me what's the difference between non-discounted and discounted methodologies and advantages and disadvantages. So this chart is there. So the three things to remember here is payback period, as I said, doesn't take time value of money. So that's the biggest issue. Right? Misleads. IRR. IRR gives you a decent, it takes time value of money, but it's a percentage. What we are focusing today is on NPV. This is what is most important in a medium to long-term projects that we use NPV as a calculation. Now, NPV, the very basic calculation is what probably Ravi would have taught you all. There are complex calculations that comes into effect. I'll just talk a little bit about it. Right. So NPV is, as you know, discounted cash flow. And you can calculate it in two ways. One is the formula method and the other one, and we will be doing an example, by the way. One is a formula method and the other one is a tabular method. I recommend, if you are not comfortable, use the tabular method. Now, what you must remember in the exam, and please mark this in a red ink and keep, because it is there for 25 marks. Right? The fixed cost and sunk cost are not considered in the calculation. Fixed cost and sunk cost are not considered in the NPV calculation. In a project, I don't know whether you all do it for other things, I don't know. In a project evaluation, it is not considered. Right? The example you told me, environmental report. It was given 3 years, 5 years, nothing has happened, but it cost us, let's say, 100,000. Now, 5 years later, we start the project. We consider that a sunk cost. finished. Whether we like it or not, we are paid and finished. So you don't bring that into the project cost. Fixed cost. Let's say chairman's salary is $100,000, not rupees. Now chairman is there. Now you are doing a project. Now chairman, whether you like it or not, is a fixed cost. It's a liability. So you don't need to bring the chairman's cost into your project to evaluate that. It's a fixed. Whether you do the project or not, chairman's salary will go. Right? So that is fixed cost. Chairman's salary variance. Sorry. If the project goes ahead or not, will he get an increase? If the project, now let's say the project is going ahead or not, will he get his annual increase? Yeah. So it is anyway budgeted into the budgets, in his operational budgets. Incremental, it's nothing to do with us. Now you are doing an IT project for the company. You are implementing ERP. You don't need to bring chairman's cost. If you bring chairman's cost, this project will never be approved because it's so costly. So chairman's cost is fixed. Now, at the same time, let's say you hire a consultant to do a project chart and evaluation to recommend whether to go ahead with the project or not. Now, what cost is that? It costs the project, because otherwise you wouldn't have brought him into the project. So he's part of your cost, investment. And he says, go ahead. So then you go ahead and you need to absorb his cost. I hope you understand the difference. So in the exam, I have written it in a way that it is a bit complicated. You need to make a judgmental call whether to take or not. We remember we looked at yesterday or on Saturday, we looked at a question, exam question, where there are 2 or 3 tricky part, bit like that, because everybody can't get 25. So 22 guaranteed. Okay. Right. How do I decide whether it's right or wrong? How do I decide whether your answer is right or wrong? You think I have calculated, I have kept a model answer and do all those things? No. I will look at the batch, how they have understood. If they have all misunderstood, then I can't mark them wrong. Right? If I didn't tell, don't take the fixed cost, you didn't take. Perfect. But you took the sunk cost. All of you took the sunk cost. Then how can I mark you wrong? That means it was my mistake. Right? So I always try to be fair. Okay. After that only I write the model answer. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, if it's my mistake and you have understood it wrongly, then it is not your mistake. That's the point I want you to know. Okay, right. Right, NPV. So Ravi told me you all are all experts and this easy peasy for you. So we are going to do an example, or you are going to do an example. So here is a question, a simple one. So outflow, inflow we have. So method 1, you can calculate a method through the formula method, which all of you may or may not use. But you know the discounted table, and then you will use the tabular method, which is much easier to do the calculation. So you know the outflow, inflow, total, which is a net, and then your discounted factors. Right. So in this case, negative. Now, one point I want to make in this case, or in any case, in your exam case as well, this number here will be very close to 0. very close to zero. Why is that? Why do I do that? I do that because if you take this figure here to 2 decimal places or less, your number will go the other way. Now, if I are given the discount table at 4 figures, why would you take to 2 figures? Don't round it up and down, stick to the figures, right? The moment you change the figure, this will change. This will become positive. Okay, so if I are given a table, use the table and not anything else, right? So discounted cash flow, again, this is a question I asked, what's the purpose? So if you don't discount, you are saying this is the return, the blue line. It will forever be 25,000 return year on year. But if you discount, then your return is going down and at some point it will go negative. That's what we are trying to do. That's why we do discounted cash flow, to give a real picture. Now, if you take the cumulative discounted cash flow, you will see that the blue line is forever going up. So the chairman will be very happy when he give a report on this basis. The CFO will say, no way, it is going here. And at some point, it will going to taper off. So your misjudgment is this. That is why we do the discounted cash flow. Okay, right. Here is a quick question, if you can try, please. And then we will quickly run through the thing. 10 minutes and we will quickly run through it. Now think of it from a project angle, right? Okay, the team online as well. I know you all are there. Normally I have about 1 or 2, but today we have about 20, I think. Please try as well online. This question is already there in your notes, huh? So you don't need to do, just you can complete it in the notes itself. Good, good, very good. Yep, okay, good. Okay, very good. Very easy for you all. Oh, wow, that's nice. Well done. Good. In case you want to know the discounted value, I don't know whether you all have it. I mean, for I think 10% was this, in case you need it. Here's the discounted table. The value was 10%. Okay. Okay. You got the numbers? All right. So quickly finish it off and then quickly just do the numbers. So Ali, you got? Right. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Yes, yes, yes. To get the inflow. Sale price 200, you took. Okay, another 2 minutes and let's start. Done? Done? Okay. All right, so I think almost done. So let's quickly run through it. So you have the year, outflow, inflow, net, 10% and present value. Okay. So here we'll take it as 0. At 0, your investment is going to be 300,000. Right. And 1.0. So it's yeah, year 0. Then year 1, 50,000 inflow. Outflow 25,000. So the net value is what? So 25K. And whatever the rate is. 0.9 something, I can't remember. 0.909, is it? Something like that. Okay. All the way down, year 10. Now the same number, outflow 25K, running costs, inflow 50K. Many forget the sale value is an inflow, 200K. Right? So you have 225K. Okay. So whatever the value is down there is the same. Then you should get a value of 69K something. You can take a picture of this and keep if you want. Should be the answer. Now, the net value is actually a minus. Huh? Right. Now, let me ask you a question, or rather 2 questions. 1 or 2 people use the formula method and they got the answer correct. So they use the formula to the power n and they got 69, which is correct. Yeah, of course, they are experts in finance. Right or wrong? It's right. I'm not saying wrong. It's right. Now here, you may have got, let's say, 10 marks. Here you will get 1 mark. Why is that? What does the question say? Calculate the present value for each year. Then they write to me, sir, I got the answer right. My friend also got the same answer. Why did I get 1 mark? He got 10 marks. What do I do? You don't read the question, then I can't help you. So read the question carefully. All right. Let's move on. Therefore, this is a negative. We are not going to go ahead with the project. Okay, right. So Ravi was right. Dr. Ravi was right. You are all expert on this subject. So I need to complicate it a little bit in the exam. So we will see how to put a twist to that. Right. So that is the costing and finance aspect of things which we looked at. I want to touch a little bit on contracts. Since we have a lawyer in-house, much easier for me, right? They can help me, right? Now in projects, another element that a project manager needs to be very comfortable and very familiar with is a contract. Remember, project manager is a multi-discipline person. He can't say, I don't understand legal matters. So contracts. Now, when we are signing a contract, I'm only going to look at it from a project angle, contract law only, very high level. So the 3 considerations are contracts, rules, risk, and the relationship must be there. That all of you are familiar with. You all have studied law in, I think, first term, year 1, whatever it was. But the contract has to be a bargain, must consider a risk, and must involve some sort of a transaction. Right. The requirement in a contract law is there has to be capacity of the people involved, legitimate purpose, legality, certainty. There has to be a deal, not one-sided. There has to be consideration for the risk, and then obviously there is an offer and acceptance. Now, the offer and acceptance must be there in a general contract. If you're signing a contract, these are some of the aspects that must be considered. The offer and acceptance, the intention or the legal relationship, lawful consideration, right? Now, what do I mean by lawful consideration is that you can't put a barrier, right? In Sri Lanka, for example, Sri Lankan law, and maybe somebody can help me here. If you are selling a house or you're giving a gift to your son, your house or deed, writing a deed, right, and giving it away, you can't put a condition there. You must pass your A level with 4 A's. Then only this house is yours. You can't do that. You can't put, am I right? You can't put a condition like that. Of course, there are ways to reverse some of those things based on various aspects of that contract, but you can't put conditions in a contract, right? So it has to be lawful, right? Then capacity of the parties to deliver, right? They must be right people to deliver this contract. Free and genuine, you can't constrain them. Lawful object, it has to be whatever the condition, the scope you are giving has to be lawful. So you can't say, I'll give you a contract, go and shoot somebody. That is not lawful. Agreement not declared void. So it has to be genuinely bound. Certainty and possibility of performance. So you can't, it has to be, you can't give an impossible task and say, do it. It has to be reasonable. And legal formalities have to be within the jurisdiction. So I am more interested in accepting a contract. And that's what I want to look at today. So all these are general terms. Now, this is what is important to us. So when there is a contract, when there is a project, what happens is there is a tender. Right? There's always government projects will have a tender, and private projects will have tenders. So this is called the issue of tender notice. So they issue a tender notice, you would have seen it in the papers. Right? So the tender notice comes out. Then you submit your offer, your document. Right? Then obviously there is a acceptance on both parties after some discussion and negotiation. Acceptance is there. And then the agreement is signed once they accept the conditions on both parties. And then the contract is formed. These are the steps. Now, when you are signing a contract, the things to be aware, especially in a project, especially if it is public-private partnership, the PPP. Now, PPPs are very dangerous items, right? Because the government will always have the upper hand. Right? So, for example, when the government privatized all in 1972, before all of you were born, they took over all the tea estates. If you remember, you may have heard about it. The biggest mistake the Sirimawa government did. So in the 80s, they said, no, we will give it back. So they gave it back, but not to the previous owners. You had to bid and take it. Right? So people like Haley's and Dilma and all these people went and John Keelson took over the estates. Now there is one rule there. It's called the golden share. So the 99% belongs to the people. The 1% belongs to the government, the golden share. The golden share, if you declare a dividend, you don't have to give the government. There's nothing like that. But what it says is that one share can be executed any time to take it all back without paying you any money. No consideration. Whether it's fair or not, I'm not going to discuss here, but that's what a golden share means. So the government has put that condition. So working with the government, you've got to understand terminologies. So these are some of the contract terminologies for a PPP contract. So they will put, now here you see expression of interest for build, own and operate, BOO basis. I don't know who is from Ceylon Shipping Corporation. Right? So you must understand what that means and the impact of that on your project, the costing. So if it's a BOT, build, operate and transfer. So that means the government is saying, look, we don't have money. We'll get into a partnership. I will give you the land. You build it, operate for a while and then give it back to me. After that, I will own it. Right? Build, you operate it, you make some money and give it, like the Colombo Katunayaka Highway. Build, operate and will be transferred after a certain number of years. Then there is BTO, build, transfer, then operate. Example is the Hambantota port. They built it. They transferred it to us. What did we do? Then we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to run it. We don't need it. So we call them again and said, here, I'll give it back to you for 25 years. Transfer it. Give them the rights to run. So that's build, transfer, and then operate. Build, rent, and transfer. This is a new trend in Sri Lanka. You will see this now when, like say, people like myself who can't afford to buy a large apartment. A 2-bedroom can manage. But there are like, say, the Shangri-La or Cinnamon Life, $1 million plus. If I had $1 million, will I come on a holiday, stand in front of you for 6 hours, waste my time? No. So people like us, they have this build, rent, and transfer. So they say, okay, you don't have money, we understand. You buy it, but how much you have? Okay, so much you have, 50%. Put that. I will rent it for another 10 years. I will recover the money, the balance part, and I will give it to you after 10 years. So that is build, rent, and then I will transfer. Right? But at that time, of course, it's old apartment and all those things. New ones would have come and all that. That's a different story. But that is another way of looking at it. Build, own, operate. This is normally, boot is normally for ships. aeroplanes and so on. Again, BOO is also same. That's what they have asked here. Build, own and operate. So the government will say, give us a percentage. You build, you own, you operate, that's fine, but give me a percentage. Right. Now, I'm not going to talk about this percentage business, is very dangerous. Right. There are people who are known as 10%, 3%. I'm not talking about that. It's actual money that goes to the government. Then build, operate, deliver, and so on. Now, the other thing that complication comes into these tenders is this F&D. So they say you finance it as well. We don't have money, you finance it. Bring in the fund managers. So if you look at the port city projects are all finance it and build it and operate and then you run it. Also, it's D, design. You do your own design. We don't mind. We will give you the land on. But you must give us a percentage. So there are various ways that these contracts are done, and why it is important that if you get it wrong, forever you are in trouble for 25 years, 99 years, whatever it is. Okay, so these terminologies are quite important, right? Now, where does the risk lie? So where does ownership lies? So if you take for example, BOO, build, own and operate. The construction is by the private sector, operation private sector, ownership private sector. Who pays for it? You have to pay for it. And then private sector actually takes the profit. But there are things that public sector, the build, own, finance and operate. Construction private sector, operate private sector, ownership with the government. So you are only given a certain area or certain conditions to operate and so on. So important as to where you lie in these contracts, in this partnership. Where is your risk? Right. This leads me to pricing. Now, this is an important topic. This was there as an example last year as well. Now, the pricing is very important from a risk perspective. We looked at pricing. So there are several different pricing. I have only put about 4 or 5 here. So turnkey projects. Now, turnkey projects is what mostly the Middle East has. Middle East people call for tenders. They don't want to know anything about it. They only want to know the price. And it is fixed. So whatever happens, the American contractors, usually British, American, French contractors who are working there, Chinese and so on, it is one fixed sum. And they are conditioned. You must deliver on this date. This is a price. If anything beyond that, you will be paying a penalty. Very simple contracts. Right? So it's fixed sum. This is what we call the lump sum or turnkey project. Fully functional, hand it back to us. This is the price. Then you get a lump sum. Lump sum is guaranteed maximum. So it can be $100 million. I will go up to, if there's an issue and there escalation of contracts, pricing, I will go up to 10%. The guaranteed maximum is 110. But my price is 100. You have to prove to me why this 10% came. That's guaranteed maximum. Then you get a unit price. That is per unit. Like we have, IT projects or manufacturing projects, they are per unit price. We saw an example, but that's very easy to calculate. You take the actual cost, calculate the cost per unit. Profit sharing. Now, this is a completely different arrangement where the cost is put together, but they share the profit. Sometimes the cost means government might give the land, government might give all the approvals, you need to construct, and then you need to share the profit. Arrangement is like. Finally, you get cost plus. I spoke about this earlier, where a contractor signs up saying, I will build it for you, but I'm not going to take any risk. Whatever invoice I spend, you give me 10%. Every time I submit an invoice, give me 10%. So cost plus. Now, that is not the objective. The objective is where is the risk. So for example, in the terms of turnkey, if you see here, the contractor takes the highest risk and not the owner. Right? Now, the contractor, if he's turnkey, he is fixed with the sum. He can't do anything with it. So if it's a cost overrun, he has to pay for it. So what he is looking for is to cost it to be below the cost. So if it's 100 million, he wants to finish at least 90 or 80. So he makes a huge margin. So what is the thing there? If you look at it, the risk is with the contractor. If he goes over, he is in trouble. So he will always look for not necessarily high quality items, maybe average quality. Right? I'm not saying cheap, but he will look for saving cost all the time. That is in his back of his mind, saving the cost. Because he wants to be below the 100 million. So the risk is with him. On the opposite side, the owner is very happy. I have signed up the price. That is what I will pay you. Inflation, deflation, interest rate, I don't care. But we looked at cost plus, exact opposite. Where the contractor says, I'm not going to take any risk. You tell me what you want, I'll buy and come. Every time I buy, I submit an invoice, you give me 10%. So cost plus. Right? But I will do as a contractor. I will go and buy the highest item, best quality. Why? If it is 10,000 and I can make it 12,000, I get 2% more. I get 10%, so I get more money. So every invoice I submit, I want it to be higher value. So I get 10% on that. So here, the contractor doesn't take a risk. He buys whatever you want. He will do it for you, 10% more. Owner takes the risk. Yeah, the owner is, there is no limit to the how much the price is going to be. Right. So if we take that and summarize it, what happens is that fixed sum versus the cost plus. The contractor's motivation is very high in the fixed sum because he is trying to save as much as possible for his margin. But it's very low. The contractor's motivation, very low cost plus. He is not bothered. Then if you take a project definition, fixed cost means highly defined. You got to define everything. Whereas here you don't have to define. It's whatever you want, I'll go and buy and come. You want Roselle, I'll go buy Roselle and come and give me 10%. So here contractor is not bothered. Right? Then controllership. Now here, fixed sum, owner is not bothered. He is not controlling anything. He has defined what he wants. You better supply that. And here, owner is highly controlling. And so on. So depends on the type of price you choose, the risk matters and who is going to finally bear the cost. Okay, and who's going to pay. So that's what the commercial contracts values. Any questions so far on the pricing? So I asked a question for 20 marks. The chairman is an old man. His daughter has called for tenders. There are 5 different tenders have come. And each of them are 5 different prices. What is your recommendation? What are the pros and cons of these 5 different contracts? And what is the recommendation? So one could be $10,000, one could be $9,000. What is your recommendation is what I asked. Okay. So you should be able to answer a question like that. Okay. Why are you looking so sad? Madam, write whatever you want. I have no problem. Right? You think the number one is better, say number one is better, but justify it. Because I have to somehow pass, you all know. So if I say, no, number one is answer, everybody must run right number one, half the people have to come back next year. I can't do that. Yeah, right. So whatever answer is okay. Justify it. Remember, in project management, there's no right answer. Whatever you write is wrong anyway. Right? So it doesn't matter. All right. My final slide, and I will wrap it up. Oh, no, two more slides. Sorry. So ending a contract, there are various ways a contract can be finished. So when you complete the contract or your project, contract finishes on completion. That's the most proper way. Breach through to some failure on the performing part, the contractor doesn't turn up or whatever failure. Frustration due to unforeseen event, like the contractor dies, then it's cancelled, right? Mutually, both parties agree, say it's not working out, we are going to close it. And then discharge due to some error in the contract. So remember the 300 housing project I told you about in Jala. So one of the challenges we have is the cost has, now this was started 7 years ago before the crisis and all that. We sold the house at, let's say, 9 million a house, right? 9 million a house. Now then the COVID happened, people couldn't come to work. Then the crisis happened. Then we couldn't import goods. The dollars were restricted. So today, that same house that was sold at 9 million is costing us 11 or 12 million to complete. So what do? Do we complete at 12 million and give it to the guy because he has paid the 9 million. So our contract is with him is valid. So do we complete it at 12 million and give it to him? Of course, today we are selling the same house, same plan at 18 million. So that's a different thing because now the prices of construction are gone up. We are selling at a different price. So that is okay. What do we do with this guy? We have sold about, let's say, 50 of those houses at 9 million. What would you do? Would you put the extra 3 million, 4 million to complete the house and give him a house? What would you do? You are in project management class. You all have to give some answer, no? Whatever answer you all are going to give is wrong anyway, so might as well tell them. Negotiate with him. Right, good. Will you come and give me extra 3 million to complete the house if I negotiate with you? Will you accept? So, sorry, if you are accepting, I'm happy. But some do actually. Some won't. Many won't. Why should I pay you extra 3 million? It is your problem. Here's a contract. You signed for 9 million, give me the house. And here is the defined things you will put in the house, put and give. What other options I have? Cover the cost with other units, right? So that's one of the right answers. So what we did was we increased the price of other units to cover not only that unit price, but also some part of other units. So we sold 50 houses. We need to cover, therefore, 50 into, let's say, 3 million, 150 million as to distributed among the other. That is one option. But it's difficult to sell at that price. When you put too much on, 500,000, nobody cares. When you put 3 million, won't sell. So you're right, some parts. What else can I do? I'm on the lump sum. Huh? I'm on lump sum. Fixed. Yeah, so I will start playing with the material. Quality. I may not give the best quality. But I'll start playing with a little bit. I can't do cheap job, but quality. So instead of maybe Roselle tile, I will put, I don't know, Lanka wall tile or from China some tile, What else can I do? There is one thing in the contract which we used for some of them. If they refuse to partner with us and We said we'll split 50-50. So if it's 3 million, you put 1.5 million, I will put 1.5 million, we will complete it. Some said okay, some said no. So for those people, we sent a letter. Force majeure. God's act, I can't complete your project. Please contact my lawyer. Some immediately called and said, no, we will try to agree with you something. Because they don't want to, they want the house completed. Some said, okay, there's nothing doing. Some have left it also. They are not even bothered because they are overseas and they are migrated also. So she just left. And we are also not doing. So these are real life problems that we face. Okay. Right. Let's move on. Dispute resolution usually arises due to some issue with cost, quality, and resource like we are having. So litigation is one option, but the most expensive. Lawyers make a lot of money and finally we end up making lawyers richer. Arbitration is one of the best methods where you call somebody. It is already defined who is the arbitrator. It's already defined. So the arbitrator come to solve the problem. Alternate dispute resolution is a counsel. You can use that. Expert resolution. So if you have a problem, like say you can call the ombudsman. He or she can come and help you resolve. And through negotiation, like you mentioned. Right. This is my final slide and I will stop here. So the contracts also have these are also contracts. When you raise an invoice, when you buy procurement, we will look at it next week. Procurement, right? So when you buy items for your project, these are the terms you have to be familiar with. Some of you will know this. Ex works means the person will only manufacture and leave it in the warehouse. You have to go and collect it. All the risk is with you, not with the manufacturer. So there's a huge cost attached to it. Free alongside ship. So they will transport it up to the ship. After that, loading to everything you have to take care. So some risk has been absorbed. FOB, free on board. So I will load it for you. After that, shipping is your problem. CIF is the most common one where the manufacturer says, okay, I will cost it, I will ship it, I will insure it, I will freight it. You collect it at your end. So you find a transport and collect it at your end when the ship lands. Finally, delivery duty paid. So DD, where is what Amazon or your parcels you order, eBay and all that. They come, deliver to your doorstep, and they ask for the extra tax they had to pay if they had to pay. Now, these are called the Incoterms, right? You may have heard about it. Incoterms are very familiar global trading terms, right? And these are these are contracts. Incoterms are contracts. So you have to oblige. I made a big mistake here. For FOB, I thought it was CIF. I priced it on FOB. I thought it was CIF. We had to bear the extra cost to bring the items. I priced it at FOB, but it was actually we needed to do CIF. So sometimes you make that error. Okay. Any questions? I want to talk about two cases, funny cases. So, in law, you can overcome law with various things. So a lawyer can prove that you are the murderer or you're not the murderer. Both lawyers can prove. It's how much you are willing to pay and how to overcome the legal aspects of the law, right? Loopholes, as they call it. So there was a case in Sri Lanka many years ago, hundreds of years ago, where they used to ship gold. They used to bring gold on the ship, on boats, Sri Lanka. India used to send a lot of gold because Sri Lanka was wanting a lot of gold. And always the Navy catches them or whatever, right? And it's confiscated, they lose the gold. So they went to the lawyer in Sri Lanka and said, look, we are always losing this gold, we are trying to bring it. Obviously, they are bringing it without those days, there was no tax as such, but you are not allowed to bring it. So lawyer said, okay, don't worry. You make an anchor out of gold and drop it into the water and bring it. So they made an anchor, they brought still the boat was caught with a gold anchor. So went to the courts. So the Sri Lankan lawyer argued with the judge, show me anywhere in the world where my anchor has to be made out of metal and not gold. Fair enough. Right. So the case was passed saying, yeah, you can. So the lawyers, when it comes to a case, especially in contracts, they will have a way to help you. They're not bad people. They make a lot of money. That's a different thing. But they will find a loophole to help you. They're not bad people. Let me ask another question on this. Let's say you bought salt from, I don't know, Thailand or whatever. You're shipping to Sri Lanka. There are 100 containers. The salt is selling at, I don't know, 1 kilo, 1 ton, 1 container at, let's say, $1,000 or whatever. So the shipment is coming. And the banks have agreed to pay. The moment ship lands, the banks will pay each other and sort it out. We have nothing to do with it because it's a terms LC open. Now the ship is on its way. The price of salt drops to 50%. So now $500 a container. So ship comes and land, $500 a container. But I paid $1,000. Now I take this $500 and I can't sell it to the market at 1,000. Here price of salt has dropped. What can I do? The ship is still coming. What other options I have? See, some of these things I'm telling you guys, don't go and do it outside, number one. Number two, is not in books. Huh? It's an unwritten law. What could you do? Like the ship is coming, you are the one. If the ship lands, immediately banks will exchange papers. You have nothing to do with it. They will pay at $1,000 because that's what you have agreed. Sunk it. He wants to sink the ship. Okay. So that's one option. You can sink the ship. You can divert the ship to another country, maybe. Okay. Some say you bring it and store it in a bonded warehouse. Okay, and so on. Now, those things don't work. The bonded warehouse, after 6 months, the salt won't even be there. It will dissolve. Okay. Diverting doesn't help because somewhere else is always at $500. So some of the things they do is these crazy things. They will sink the ship or they push the containers off. Some people can claim the insurance after it lands. After it lands, you can't claim insurance. The ship must disappear or the container must disappear for it to claim the insurance. So they make it disappear. Suddenly you will see ship caught oil fire. Ship was caught fire. How can an oil ship catch fire, man? Petrol, I understand. Right? Then you claim the insurance. The oil price has dropped while it's in transit. So these are some of the things people do to overcome situation. All right. So with that, I will stop. So I will see you guys on Saturday and go and enjoy your Independence Day.